All right, let's go ahead and get this going. So, welcome everybody. This is Intiva's Lunch and Learn for September 2023. I'm going to be your host again, Ted Brown, Director of Product Management here at Intiva. And today we're going to be talking about Microsoft security features and more into how you can protect yourself on the data footprint you have put into the Microsoft ecosystem. We're going to get into a little bit of zero trust data protection, data classification, information protection, data loss prevention, insider risk management, as well as data governance. Just like other webinars and lunch and learns we've done in the past, please use the Q&A section for any and all questions, and I'll answer the questions at the end of the presentation. Also, open forum for anybody who wants to put any suggestions for future lunch and learn or webinar topics you want me to cover in the Microsoft ecosystem. Happy to present on anything you think will be relevant to you and your organization. Drop those into the chat or the Q&A, and we'll go ahead and consider them for future webinars and lunch and learns. So I think really what I want to get down here first is make sure everyone understands what zero trust means. I feel like this has been a buzzword for a couple of years now, and I just want to level set for everyone on this webinar today. So zero trust is a security strategy used to design security principles for your organization. Zero trust can help organizations and corporations by implementing the following security principles. One, verifying explicitly. Now, what this means is always authenticate and authorize based on available data points, including your user identity, your locations people are logging in from, the device health, the services that workloads are trying to access, the data classifications, as well as any and all anomalies. Next, you want to adhere to what's called the least privilege access. People logging in have what's called just-in-time access or just enough access to do their type of work they need to do on a daily basis. And this can be done through risk-based adaptive policies and data protections to help secure both you and your data, as well as make sure that your productivity is still there at the end of the day. And lastly, I think this part kind of scares people, but really the best part, one of the important parts of zero trust is assume breach. What you want to do here is minimize the blast radius if someone does infiltrate a certain segment of your business. This way you can make sure to verify that end-to-end encryption is there and utilize analytics to gain visibility and drive threat detection, improve defenses, therefore making sure to kind of mitigate or limit the amount of data people can infiltrate if they do get into a certain segment of your business. And Microsoft has a couple ways to do this as far as protecting your data assets within their system. And they have a new program called, or a newest program they renamed to Microsoft Purview. And it has 5 core elements when looking at a data depth defense and strategy for zero trust implementations. And these come down to 5 basic principles, which are data classification, Microsoft Purview information protection, data loss prevention, which is DLP, insider risk management, as well as data governance. And these tools can help safeguard sensitive data and prevent unauthorized access and provide a zero trust 365 security strategy. Now, the first part about this is you need to understand your data, and this comes down to data classifications. If you don't know what sensitive data you have on your organization, either on-premise or in the cloud, you can't adequately protect it. Discovering, detecting your data across your entire organization and classifying it with sensitivity levels is the first step of understanding where all your information is. Now, Microsoft has a Microsoft Purview data classification, which is a powerful tool that can help organizations manage the data assets and comply with various regulations as well as policies. Data classifications enable you to assign what's called labels to your data based on sensitivity, value, as well as risk. And now these labels can be used to apply appropriate protection, such as maybe risk actions, may say how long, retention actions, how long should they be living in your organization? Maybe it's 3 years, 5 years. Set the appropriate level of encryption, can be encrypted, doesn't need to be encrypted for people utilizing internal as well as externally. And then also controlling who can have access as well as potentially delete this data. By utilizing Microsoft Purview data classification, you can benefit from enhanced data security. You protect your data from unauthorized access, leakage, or theft by applying granular policies and controls based on data classifications with these labels. You can also improve your data governance. You can do this by monitoring and auditing your data activities with compliance status by utilizing comprehensive dashboards and reports. You can also leverage data classification of labels to enforce data retention and disposal policies, which I mentioned before, in accordance with your business's needs as well as your legal obligations. The increased data value. Now, what this kind of comes down to is you can discover and optimize your data assets by utilizing labels to identify what's most relevant to you, as well as what data you have within your organization, really understanding the footprint you have within Microsoft to understand where that data lives. This will then come down to what's called information protection, of actually creating a labeling scheme for your organization. I'll just go through a little bit of actually a demo how this looks to make sure it makes more sense. But conditional and least privileged access to sensitive data reduces the data security risks, implying sensitivity-based access policy guardrails, such as right management encryption, where environmental controls are insignificant. Using information sensitivity markings to increase awareness and security policy compliances. Now, Microsoft Purview Information Protection is a comprehensive solution that helps you protect your sensitive data across your organization. With Microsoft Purview, you can apply encryption and apply a policy to control who can access your data and how. You can also monitor and audit your data activities, detect anomalies and risks. And then once you see those risks come through, you can respond and remediate any of the data incidents and breaches. Microsoft Purview enables you to safeguard your data in a consistent and scalable way while empowering your users to collaborate and make sure they collaborate securely and productively. Now, the neat part about, I think, what labels is they travel with your data. And so as you create these labels and apply them to your data, these sensitivity labels will live with the data which in the metadata of the system. So as these files can go from maybe SharePoint to Teams to Power BI to SQL, they can always have that same labeling applied to it. So when you're trying to find where this data might live, it can be in different types of data sets, but since it got applied to it when it was an Office document per se, it will live with that data entirely until maybe it was reclassified in a certain way. So let me jump over to some of the Microsoft portals so you kind of see a little bit this in action. So right here is the administrative part of the compliance manager within Microsoft 365. This is my test tenant you have here. I've done a couple of times. Tomorrow's firm today. I've got into this by coming to the admin side of Microsoft 365, and down here is a compliance link you can get into this form. So right in here, I have a different types of solutions that we're talking about, a handful of these actions today. One of them is going to be the information protection. So I'm going to click on information protection and click on labels. So here's where you would actually create the labels that are important to you as an organization. I've created a couple tests in here because it does take some time for this to sync up with the organization, about 24 hours once you create a new label and put it out there. So with these new labels, you have different ways of kind of classifying what type of data this label would be applied to. So I'm just going to go through a couple options here so you can see it in action. So I'm going to do a test label, test demo, display name, how it's going to be displayed to all your end users. Use this for demo activity. And test. And if you want to set different labels on there, colors on there, click next. Now, what's going to be defined the scope? What is this label going to be applied to? You're going to set it to your files, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams. Is it going to be in your emails for Microsoft Outlook, as well as meetings? So you can actually put labels to all these things, or maybe this type of label is going to be functional with one segment of the 365 infrastructure. I'm going to click on next. You can see here, you can let people know they need to apply or remove encryption, as well as providing content markings, which I think is important here. I'll click next and show you this. Actually, I'll go back, remove encryption, click next, content markings. So you can add watermarks to all your files within 365. So you can say anything that has this label will have this watermark. So it will be on the actual preview of the document itself. You can customize the text and put any type of markings you want to have here, as well as putting down footers on the file itself. So as people classify certain files with certain labels, on the bottom of the document, it will tell you, hey, it's a private file, or hey, it's a project 1234 type file. So you have an actually visible recognition of what that file can do. So once you've actually set your labels, which is appropriate to organization, then the end users can operate with those labels, specifically with files. So let me jump over to a little bit of a test I have here. So I have two people working here. I have my demo2 account or my admin account right here and my demo2 account here. So I'm going to open up Word. And when I open up Word, I'm going to create a new document. And I'm going to go with this is a project task. So they'll go ahead and create this document right here. And with this document, now they have the capability of applying certain labels to it right here with sensitivity level. So I click on sensitivity and have the two labels I've already created before, my project test and do not share label. You also have the ability to apply labels up at this location right here, this document one. Click on this. You can see here, same type of levels right here. I'll go ahead and set my project test label. I want to strip permissions to this. I want to have everyone have in my organization be able to change it and click OK. Hit save file. And now this has applied the label to this document itself. Again, now that I applied the label, it's searchable. I can do reports on it. I can find out who's using this, where it's gone in my organization because I applied that policy label. Now, one of the neat parts about this as well is I kind of showed you, hey, the content watermarkings. So if I click on file and go to my print, I can see here, if you look down here, it has the actual watermark on the document itself. So as I print this out, it will have the watermarkings of what type of label is on there, if I think that's appropriate, as well as down here at the bottom, you can see here, I have the footer automatically put on that file itself. So it will traverse with all the information on here. Now, if I set this actual file to not be accessed by certain people in my organization, they would not be able to work on this file itself. So they would open up maybe only in view mode and get an error message that they can't access this file. Now, this also kind of correlates a little bit to sending things out with Microsoft Office. So I'm going to go ahead, bring over a new file right here as well. Bring this across. So I can go ahead and type in an email here, 11, and I'm going to go ahead and click File Encrypt. So this encryption here piece is all part of the Microsoft Purview information protection as well of how I want the people to act with this email. So I can say, hey, I want to encrypt this email, or I want to just set it to do not forward. So if I encrypt it, only the person that received this email could forward along in the encryption fashion, or if I set it to do not forward, it would encrypt as well as not allow that person to forward it on. So this is a test email. Send this over, and it does take a second for the other person to open it. So I'm going to bring over my email here. So here's my email. I received the test message here, read message. And the great part about this is people ask about, hey, I want to make sure to set up encryption type emails. And this is all done with information protection here, where when sent to certain aspects or certain companies, if the user company is a Office 365, their login will allow them to access this email, as well as if they have Gmail as well, they can use their Gmail access to go into the 365 portal to access this. So they don't have to have a one-time password to get in. It all authenticates automatically. You could set it up with a one-time password if you want. I'm going to sign in with my Gmail account, and it will allow me to see what the email is, respond to it in an encryption fashion. You can see here it's gone to Office 365, so it's all contained. So if something was important here, it won't leak out. I can see that this message is encrypted, and I can't send it out. So I can reply to it, but again, I won't be able to unencrypt it because I don't have the correct rights for it. So it's a good way to actually operate and label your files, as well as providing a nice protection for sending out emails. And back to my test here, even in Outlook itself, bring up a new email, got it, new email. Bring up my email here, and I have my sensitivity labels in here as I'm writing emails. I can put certain functionality here of making it mandatory if you want to actually have encryption put on if it fits certain labels. I want to have a do not share label that doesn't allow for external people to open this. And so as they put that label on there, even if they try to send it externally, it wouldn't go out because that label is associated. So very powerful information, but first it comes down to, like I said before, classifying your data for then applying the actual correct policies through the information protection. And now, what we talked about before is more on the access control piece of it. And really that's only part of the problem. You need to actually have ability to check and control risky data and behavior and movements, which may result in data security or compliance incidents, and allow organizations to prevent oversharing sensitive data. Microsoft Purview Data Loss Prevention, which is DLP, is a solution that helps organizations protect their sensitive data from unauthorized access, leakage, or theft. DLP can help prevent data breaches, comply with regulations, and safeguard intellectual property. And some of the high-level benefits of Microsoft Purview provides a unified and consistent policy framework across different data sources such as Microsoft 365, Azure, as well as your Office, your on-prem systems. It can leverage advanced machine learning and artificial intelligence to automatically discover and classify and label sensitive data based on content and context, which is great because you don't have to have the human interaction piece of this. You can actually put in DLP rules to say, hey, if you see certain content, label it automatically in this fashion, or hey, an email is being sent out that has credit card information in there, go ahead and label it as private PII data and don't allow it to go out. And that comes down to creating your custom policies to really enforce the compliance level in that. And I can kind of show a little bit of this. I won't actually send it out, but let me show what that will look like. So if I come back into my Microsoft Purview location here, there is a location called Data Loss Prevention. So I'll go ahead and click on a policy here, and I'll go ahead and create a new policy, just kind of give you a feel what options are in there. So you have, based on a set of templates you can create, you can make a custom one, but you have certain templates in here you can pick from. I'll go ahead and use financial, and let's go ahead and use USA financial data. Click on next. US financial data V2. And then where is it going to be looking for this information? So the data leak protection can say, hey, I only want to apply this to Exchange email, or do I want to apply this to all the information within 365? I think most people will probably provide it to all, but you can get granular and focused if necessary. And as I click next in here, it'll tell me, what do I want to do with it? I want to review the credit card numbers, US bank accounts, and routing numbers. And then once I get that information, you want to say, hey, what is it you want to do once you find this information? Do you want to make sure that you have incident reports sent to certain people in your organization and say, a training opportunity, please don't send credit card information out. It's against our policy and rule book. You can also have it instantly set restriction and encrypt the content within 365 once it matches certain thresholds or certain actions that you want to occur within DLP, to make sure that if it does leave the system, encryption set on it, and you're not utilizing the end user, your employee, to set what you think is important for your organization, how it should be sent it out, really setting those policies and guardrails for your organization. And then what I think is really neat after this is you can set what actions you want to occur afterwards. You can actually have it set for restricting activities on devices. So as this goes through, let's go ahead and maybe set file activities for if a label gets applied, you want to make sure that people cannot copy it as far as onto a clipboard. Maybe you won't have this information be put onto a USB drive, copied to a network share, printed, copy utilizing Bluetooth marks, Bluetooth applications. So there's a lot of granular activity here. You can really limit the scope of what this file can do. Granted, there's always multiple ways people can try to get this information. It won't, stop someone from getting their phone and taking a picture of it, but we'll try to at least guardrail as much as it possibly can to make sure this information is protected, as well as showing that you as an organization have put in the mitigation strategy to help limit exposure and risk if this data was actually compromised, or again, going back to what the zero trust part of this is, assume breach. If something does get into this, are these files protected and encrypted? And this will go down the path, making sure that you've actually set the policies with your data loss prevention strategy. Next, we're going to go into what's called, which I find actually an interesting thing Microsoft recently put in, is insider risk management. Now, the three previous topics I had, your data classification, your Azure information protection, your DLP, those will actually all be available to you on some of the lower end Microsoft 365 licensing schemes. Your Microsoft Business Premium have access to all those information. The people that add on your information protection, which is a $2 add-on, have access utilizing the data classification, your information protection, as well as your DLP options you have in there. But these next two pieces I'm going to talk about, insider risk management, as well as your data governance, that gets into more of the E5 realm for Microsoft 365 licensing, or doing higher level add-ons, such as the insider risk is actually an add-on you can do. Now, with insider risk, the data access, like we talked about before, may not always provide the entire story. Minimizing risk to the data by enabling behavior detection from a broad array of signals and acting on potential malicious and inadvertent activities in your organization that could be a precursor or an indication of data breach. Microsoft Purview Risk Management is a solution that can help organizations detect and prevent insider threats, such as data leaks, frauds, sabotage, as well as intellectual property theft. It leverages advanced analytics and machine learning and Microsoft Graph to identify risky behaviors and activities across multiple data sources, such as email, files, chats, as well as much more. It can provide rich context and insights to help security teams investigate and respond to incidents quickly and effectively. Some of the high-level benefits of Microsoft Purview of insider risk management are: it protects against sensitive data and assets from unauthorized access or exfiltration by insiders. It can reduce the risk of compliance and violations from legal liabilities due to insider misconduct. It can enhance security postures and reputations of organizations by demonstrating a proactive approach to insider threat management. And I think the key part here, it also improves productivity and collaboration of employees by minimizing, which is always frustrating, is this false positive that comes through and reduces that friction. And lastly, it empowers security teams with actionable intelligence and tools to mitigate insider risk and incidents. Now, down below here, I kind of have a graph of how this can go through. So people assign an insider risk management policy. You set up how the alerts want to occur, and then it comes down to, hey, triage. As things alert, you're going to investigate and take action and rinse, wash, repeat. Now, a idea on this comes down to, hey, let's take a look at insider risk based on a resignation somebody might put in for employees saying, hey, I'm going to be I'm found another job. I'm going to be leaving the job here in about 30 days. With insider risk, if you set everything up beforehand, your data classification, incident management policies, and all the policies for insider risk, you can get a nice little holistic view of what has occurred for that organization, for that user. So let's go ahead, hey, 90 days before you put the resignation in, let's see what that user had taken action on. How many sensitive data access did they take place? Did they download it? Where did it go? Did it go to USB drive? That seems kind of odd. Now, with this information, you can take action and triage and take actionable alerts based on things that might seem risky behavior to you and your organization. You can also take a look at what happened 30 days afterwards. So the person put their resignation in, then you can start taking a look, hey, over the course of the 2 weeks or 30 days of how long they put in for when they'll be leaving the organization, what have they been doing? What are they doing with those files? Are they accessing a whole bunch of stuff they should not do? Or maybe they can have a certain repository of data that they should not have access to anymore once they put in the termination. So you can say, hey, anything with project XYZ label, this user should not have access to. And with the power of Microsoft Purview, you can make those actions happen. But you have to have those policies and procedures put in first. You have to have your data classification, which is never a complete easy process. It is time, does take time to put those measures in place. But once you put that heavy lift in, afterwards, you can then take a look at what data is being used and then make actionable decisions based on any information coming through. So very powerful to take advantage of. And it's something that's not, set up instantly outside. Once you get this going, you have to kind of massage it, make it work. But once you get that done, you have a lot of information at your fingertips to take actionable alarms on. Now, I don't have much of a demo on that piece, but I do think it would be nice to kind of see what it looks like within the portal itself. So it has come back into the Microsoft Purview. I'm going to scroll down to the insider risk management. And you can see here, I only have a couple people in this, so there's not a lot of incidents occurring. 0% of a user perform exfiltration activities. So my test accounts look good. But I can come in here and go to my policies. and create a new policy. And you kind of get an idea of some of the templates that are in here. So in here, I have HR data connectors. How does it connect out to whatever HR applications you're utilizing? Your device onboarding, your physical badge connectors. You get down to your data leak protections, your security policies and protections. So there's a lot of pre-canned templates in here you can take advantage of to kind of build up what you want to take advantage of and take actionable alerts on, and then create policies and put that in place, and then let things come through and then take action on if necessary. And lastly, we have data governance. And this comes really down to proactively managing the life cycle of all the sensitive data you have to help reduce exposure, limiting the number of copies and propagation of sensitive data, and deleting data that's no longer needed to minimize data breach. Microsoft Purview offers a data governance is a comprehensive solution that helps organizations manage, protect, optimize their data assets. This really allows you to, one, gain visibility into your data sources, quality, lineage, and usage across the entire enterprise. You then can define and enforce policies and standards for data security, privacy, and compliance. You can empower your data consumers, your employees, with self-service access, discovery, and collaboration tools right at their fingertips. You can improve your data quality and reliability with automatic data cleansing and validation. And then once you have that done, leverage advanced analytics and AI to generate insights and drive business outcomes. And I do think this picture here kind of does a nice job of kind of condensing it all into one little picture of how all the information flows. So with the Purview, you have where the data is being worked on. You have your team chats, your Teams messages, your files being utilized in Teams, your email attachments and data all feeding in, of course, to the Microsoft 365 infrastructure. You have the capability of bringing in different data collectors from SaaS solutions or on-prem information to bring things into Microsoft 365, and then pull into what's called your compliance manager, setting in your policies and how does it operate, and then do your policy matching on top of that. If certain things are occurring, then you want to take action based on your sensitive information types you've classified before, credit card numbers, anything important to you as an organization that you want to deem as a sensitive type of document. Or, hey, maybe set up like before of projects in there going, hey, each one of these are projects I want to take actionable information on if things occur or leak outside my organization. So this kind of shows you a little bit of how things flow through the Microsoft Purview information. And I think that comes down to being the last slide I have for this topic here. And I hope you found it valuable. I'm happy to answer any questions you have with the Microsoft Data Purview information, data governance, information protection, data classification. And as I mentioned, this is not something that can be set up with the click of a button, but all the upfront work that we put into classifying and setting labels and training employees will go a far way at the end of the day when you actually need to take some actual alerts, take action on alerts coming through, or see a really big holistic look how people are utilizing the data. And that's the most important thing to the organization is your data and how you want to protect it and make sure it's secure at the end of the day. So any questions, pop into the Q&A section. Happy to answer it. And we'll go ahead and leave this open for another minute or two. All right, not seeing any questions come through. So I think we'll go ahead and close out this lunch and learn. So thank you all for joining. I hope you learned something new about Microsoft security. Next month, I believe we're going to be doing a webinar, a lunch and learn on Power BI. And until then, I hope you have a great week and talk to you all soon. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye.